Here's the Acura CL maintenance record. I keep a complete binder on all my cars, but this one's specific to the Acura CL, as you can see. And I keep a couple things pertaining to the car from history. I like to capture the history of the vehicle as well as any relevant maintenance. So this is a press release CD, has all the information on it that was given to the press back in 2003. We have a dealership brochure. We have a nice thing called Acura in the News. And then in the back of the binder, I have a couple of magazine articles on it. So this one was a little pricey because it was the same edition as the Corvette turning 50. But it also captures the Acura CL Type S versus the BMW 330 Ci. And this one captured the Acura CL Type S versus the BMW 328i. Here's all the maintenance records for the car. And this is very interesting. This is the original buyer agreement that the original owner signed. It's actually the first record that I have for this car. And then I also have the first oil change. And this was part of an oil service club, as you can see here. And it was for the life of the car. So this individual never had to pay for servicing their vehicle for oil changes, which I think contributed to, in a large way, why this car is so well taken care of. It doesn't show any mechanical signs. A lot of the signs of age or weather or rust, as we discussed in other videos, but the performance of the car is still there, and I think it in large part was incentivized by the owner having this oil club membership where they could get free oil changes. So you don't actually see any real maintenance needs until far into the history, but every couple of months for the first year of ownership, this person was driving it pretty routine, and likewise getting free oil changes. Something to note in all of these records, and I've continued to compile my own because I do all my own work here, is that this individual who originally owned this car, so this is technically a 3-owner car, but the second owner only owned it for less than 3 months before he realized that he was in way over his head and wanted to get rid of the car. But something to note, that the original owner replaced 3 flat tires within 60 days on this car, if I recall correctly. So there's maintenance records that go all the way back into detail about that, but it's quite comical to see how many times this person had a flat tire. So this is the dealer brochure that came with the car back in 2003. This is one of my favorite pictures, and honestly one of my favorite colors of the car. There are some great photos of the 2003 Acura CL Type S in here. There's some of that more classical early 2000s verbiage. There's magic in every curve. And you see, this is actually the closest picture to what represents the car I have. Nighthawk black, likely a 6-speed, maybe not. Hard to tell in that photo. This one is definitely a good indication, although my interior is not black and I don't have the navigation. You can see it was a very sports-oriented car back in the day with a luxury to it. Really supposed to up-rival the BMWs, which were considered predominantly the aspiring car to be, from both a manufacturer and from an owner's perspective. You wanted to have a BMW in your fleet because they were considered the driver's car, and this is Acura's closest attempt to put out a very good GT coupe, high horsepower enthusiast car. You don't see this a lot in car brochures today where they actually go into detail about the car, because a lot of this would be beyond the layman's understanding, like gear ratios and the difference between compression ratio of 9.8 to 1 and versus 10.5 to 1. Like a lot of that is lost, but this is very interesting too to me that they went in depth and put like a really nice presentation together in here to really show the differences between the Type S and the plain CL, if it were as you were. Horsepower and torque graph that shows the difference between the CL, the plain CL, why would you ever own that, and the CL Type S. Both cars were, rightfully so, pretty good with this V6. Here's another interesting graphic. This is the difference between HID and halogen. Like, I don't even understand what this really is trying to show, other than HID allows you to see further in the dark, but it's a very odd graphic, and I I question what the legitimacy of this as being true or not, but it is interesting nonetheless and a great piece of the car's history. So this article is from Car and Driver, the 50th anniversary of the Corvette, and in it is the Acura CL Type S 6-speed versus the BMW 330i, which, if you look at it from face value, you would say that these cars are pretty similar, and the results actually speak for themselves. I'll quick glance over to the results. The BMW barely beat out the Acura in their test, but it's interesting where they noted the higher marks for the Acura. So engine and transmission. Maybe no surprise to those who follow BMWs that they have a lackluster reputation for engines and transmissions, but it's nice to see that the engine and transmission is highly valued in this car. And they marked it down on style. Now, eye of the beholder here, obviously, but I would say that they unfairly marked the CL down. I mean, yes, the BMW is a beautiful car, but the Acura CL is nothing, short of a pretty stylish car in itself. And to give it a 7, I think, is pretty unfair. So if you take the numbers and you even point it, this subjective styling score of 7 and made it an 8, they're pretty much neck and neck. Yeah, I agree, the brakes could be improved on the CL, and I don't know about the BMW, but I'll take their word for it. And that's something that I've noted myself, which is why we're working on a project to put the Legend calipers on the CL to see if that improves. I would say it's pretty comfortable to drive in as well. So they're pretty close. But I think that subjective score of 7 on styling should change. And then these cars would be essentially neck and neck. And then it's basically down to personal opinion which one's better. This is Acura in the news. What I think is kind of funny is when you started going into these articles and you hear what the people have to say about cars sometimes. The CL and Type S surprised to no end with their ability to hang right on the bumper of the NSX and Twisties. And then you go over to this right here, which is highlighted in the article, has a European feel that is much about the driver satisfaction. This is clearly a car for the enthusiasts. It's funny how they compare everything to the feel of a European car.